Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
And the ball is loose. Third and 4.
Yo, welcome to another edition of the AFC North Talk here. Tony is MIA. No, he's not MIA. He is in his business trip. Shout out to him. Hopefully he's doing his thing. The reality is he made sure he was not here for this particular game because he didn't want to talk about the Steelers. No, I'm joking.
Tony tested positive for loving the Steelers.
Don't you play with that juju.
Man. Okay. Yeah, you don't play with that one. Okay, so I think the guys, me, Ace, and Q are talking. Q has all the rules of how the new regulations for the NFL protocol is. So I'm gonna let Q explain how the protocol is to get out of COVID list early. Go ahead, Q.
All right, before we do that, I'm in second place, sir.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there we go. All right, there. That feels much better. All right, now I can give the rules. Sorry, Ace. It didn't feel right being by myself there. Tony really let us down. This is just playing. All right, so there is a lot of confusion on what the new rules are and when they're effective. So there have been more than one outbreak in the NFL, right? I think we have focused on this Cleveland one because it's the most high-profile one, but there are multiple outbreaks throughout the league. 3 games just got moved to Monday. So why is that important, and what does that mean for the players who are on this list? Well, the NFL updated the protocols recently. Now, there are multiple ways now to test out of quarantine. What used to be was that there was only 2 ways to test out of quarantine: unvaccinated, vaccinated, right? And there was one track for each of them. If you're unvaccinated, it's the same rules as last year. You're going to miss 10 days. If you are vaccinated, you just need 2 negative tests, right? That was what the updated one was into 2020 to 2021. Now they have made a extension or a change for this week only. We'll see if it carries over to next week. I have to imagine at the rate that things are happening right now, it's probably going to carry over to next week. But right now, it's only effective for week 15 currently. And it updates that for vaccinated players, which, if we're talking about the Cleveland Browns situation, all the Browns players who have tested positive are vaccinated. So for vaccinated players, there are now 3 different ways you can test out of quarantine. The first way a player or staffer can now test out of quarantine is to either have the 2 negative PCR tests at any time and the day after a positive test or later, or for the test to indicate a cycle threshold of 35 or greater, indicating low amounts of the virus and lower ineffectivity, which basically means, but not absolutely means, asymptomatic, right? If you are asymptomatic and they give you this test and you have lower than whatever this threshold is or higher than this threshold, then you will be fine to play. The second way is to have the 1 negative PCR test or a cycle threshold of 35 or greater, again, asymptomatic. So basically what they're changing this to, this is simplifying it. There's a lot more complications in here that we could dive deeper into, but I'm just trying to give everybody just a Sparks Notes version of the update. So basically, players who are now asymptomatic and vaccinated, if they're under a low enough risk to not spread this virus any further, but still technically have it, they can play because they're not at risk to spread it as much because they are vaccinated and they do not have a serious case of the disease. They just have trace amounts of it. Yep. So that then allows a player to be activated. That can happen all in one day too. It's not the 2-day thing like it was before. It can happen all in one day where you do get that test. It does say you're under it. So that is what it is there. So that's the change that has been made. It has not just been made for the Cleveland Browns. It has been made for multiple other teams that are going through an outbreak. I love how Nova Stone here. See, this is the funny thing. All week, I've been dealing with Browns fans telling me how the league's rigged towards the Ravens, or if this was Tom Brady, they would have moved the game already. And now that they've moved the game, for the obvious reasons on why you have to move this game, the Browns have more people than the Ravens did on the COVID list when the Ravens had to move. I believe the Ravens were at 23. The Browns are at like 24 players and coaches who have been impacted by this list. That indicated that they needed to move the game. So that's why the game is being moved. I think that's the magic number, right? 22, 23. Once you get to that number, you got to move the game for health and safety reasons. So, but again, there are people going to have conspiracy theories out there. This is what's actually been said by the league. We got a super chat from Nova Stone who says NFL always favored the Browns game move so top players could come back. LOL, right? I think he's a Tom Brady fan too, which is just that's just top tier irony. But when the Ravens had to play with backup squad, players, unfair to the Raiders. I mean, it can be unfair to the Raiders. The Browns are going to be on a super short week next week because they didn't move the Packers game anyway. So, like, they're going to be playing Monday to Saturday. So, it's a short week for the Browns. And for the Raiders, they get a couple of extra days. And let's not forget, the Raiders have not had an outbreak. So, they've been able to practice all week. The Browns have not been able to practice. So, the ideal that having to wait an extra day, a Monday night game, is somehow like this unfair thing for the Raiders, I think is kind of ridiculous. But, you know, we get like this every time the NFL does something, right? Whenever the NFL does something to move something, oh, it's unfair to this team. Oh, we're being screwed. It's rigged. It's just people complaining.
Yep, I agree. We have another super chat here.
Oh, yeah. From Whoa, what is that? Says breaking news. Tony Serino has it. Let's not play with that. Let's not play with that.
We don't want to play with that.
Play with that.
Tony is fine, and he sent his video. So we're going to start with that. We're going to play Tony's videos. We just wanted to make sure you guys knew the rules and regulations. Q was all informed up on them. So we want to have Q explain them a little bit. Now we're going to go with Tony. Tony's going to give his takes, and then we'll proceed with ours. So let me add this.
All right, let's talk about these games this week. I'm going to try and keep this short this time. I think last time I sent in a video, I guess I sent in 4 videos, and each of them were probably like 20 minutes long. So I'm going to try and keep this a little shorter today so the guys can get on with the show. Let's do speed round here. We'll start with the Browns and Raiders. I'll just say this. I'm disappointed in the NFL. Well, I'm not disappointed in the NFL. I'm not surprised at all by the NFL. The NFL said this offseason, hey, we're not moving games around, right? We're only moving games in case of like, medical emergency or, the government makes us do it, right? Those are like the only 2 ways we're going to do it. And then, you have one team ravaged by COVID. It's like, oh, well, actually, you know what? Maybe Monday at like 5 wouldn't be that bad. So cool. Browns Raiders is not going to get played on Saturday now. It's going to get played on Monday. And here's the problem with previewing this game now. Is coming in, okay, if this game's played on Saturday, there's a pretty easy math to do, right? They're down 20 guys. Nick Mullins is going to start at quarterback, right? I don't like the Browns' chances, being down that many players and down to their third-string quarterback. Yeah, I think the Raiders could win that one. But now, with this game being moved to Monday, who the hell's going to play? Who knows? Who's coming back? Can Baker play? Again, not like Baker's this huge improvement, but Baker Mayfield gives you, a live arm at least. And again, if that arm ever gets going again, and this offense can start to put some things together, not only can they win this game, as I've said before, you look at the rest of this division. Ravens are banged up and not playing well. The Steelers are a bad football team. The Bengals are, again, young and just kind of struggling through this end portion of the season when wins become that much tougher. And then you got the Browns, who are clearly the most talented team in the division, but they still haven't really put things together. If they ever really did put it together, I think they'd probably win the division. I'll take the Raiders in this one just by default, just because I don't know who's coming back, right? The possibility that certain guys can play in this game is nice, but there's no certainty to that. I'll take the Raiders to beat the Browns. All right, going over to Ravens and Packers. Obviously, this one's also, has a big who will play type of atmosphere to it, of course, with Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar Jackson has the ankle injury. He's not going to practice. Harbaugh saying he may play in this one. Somewhat irrelevant because the other side of the ball is a real problem here, right? The Ravens offense is a big issue, and I'll get to that in a second. But I think the big mismatch here is what's been happening all year to this Ravens secondary as they continue to get more and more banged up. Now we've got Marlon Humphrey out for the year, and then we hear that Chuck Clark will not play in this football game. Boy, that's a tough loss when you're going up against Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. I guess it's going to be Anthony Averett to cover him. And Anthony Averett, as Sonny has said this year, I think the one thing for Averett is that he is a starter caliber corner. I mean, he's not great, but he's good enough to start. And especially for a team like the Ravens, who already have this kind of luxury at corner, to have another guy like that for next year, I mean, that's going to be a nice thing to have. But what we're going to find out here is that there's a difference between being a starting caliber corner and a corner that can cover Devontae Adams for 60 minutes. And obviously they're going to try and roll coverage his way, as every team does. It's not going to matter, especially with no Chuck Clark. Right now, you're going to have, I think, 2 rookies back there, or 2 young guys back there, because you already got Stevens back there because of Deshaun Elliott's injury. I don't know who's going to play in favor of Clark now. So that to me is the big issue here, right? With the way the secondary is right now, I have a hard time believing that the Packers are not going to score into the high 20s or into the 30s in this football game. And then you look at what the Ravens have done since their bye week offensively, where this team has just been lethargic. And whether it's because they can't hit the deep ball anymore, the running game isn't what it used to be, Lamar's not playing well, they're pressing, the offensive line is obviously taking steps back. All of those things kind of, form to a team right now in the Ravens that is scoring right around 20 points a game or less. And when you're facing a Packer team that's as prolific as they are, that's the issue, right? So that's where I say, the Lamar thing obviously makes this game less fun, because is Tyler Huntley really going to keep, Tyler Huntley versus Aaron Rodgers? I think we can all say right there. Okay, there's your mismatch. You put Lamar in this game, I guess it makes it more interesting because we've seen this team be, scrappy at the end of games, but still, I like the Packers relatively easy in that one. All right, Bengals Broncos. This is the funnest game of the weekend. This is a sneaky game because this is a huge game for both teams. Both these teams, I believe, are 7-6, both outside the playoffs right now. But the loser of this game is going to feel horrible coming out, because not only are they going to be set back again, but now they're going to have lost this tiebreaker. And as we start jockeying for positioning late in the year, this is a huge one. This is a big game for both. I'll take the Bengals in a bounce back here. And then we have Steelers-Titans. The Titans are kind of banged up in this one. Sneaky banged up. They got Roger Saffold, their guard, is out. David Long, their linebacker, is out. AJ Brown is not going to play. And the Steelers are getting a little healthier. TJ Watt likely to come back now. Alex Highsmith going to come back in this one. Hayden might play in this one, thank goodness. Now, and all of that is good for the Steelers. The Steelers do have a big problem on the defensive line, where their defensive line has just been outright bad. It's very good for the Steelers that Derrick Henry's not going to play in this game, because if he was, I mean, what's the record for rushing yards in a game? Because Derrick Henry may have set that. And that's really going to be a footnote in history. Is like the what if Derrick Henry did get to play in this game against this Steeler front seven. Oh, the other guy to talk about that's coming back. This is a thing to watch for. Robert Spillane is healthy again. Who gets benched? Someone's getting benched at the inside linebackers. Who do Mike Tomlin and Keith Butler dislike more? Is it Devin Bush or is it Joe Schobert? Because each guy every week is kind of competing for which one's worse, which one's more likely to get benched. The Steelers don't have 2 linebackers they trust in place. So with Spillane back, one of those guys will be benched this week. I'm almost positive of it. And we'll see which one it is. It's going to be a fun thing to watch for. I'm going to be a homer here. I'm going to take the Steelers. And here's my reasoning why. Obviously, the Titans are a better team than the Steelers, no doubt. Look at the home road splits for the Steelers. Yes, the Steelers have not played well in recent weeks, but all of those games, Chargers, right? The Bengals game, and then last week against the Vikings. All these games are on the road. Look at their home games. The Steelers haven't lost a home game since that Bengals game back in, what was it, like week 3? Was that week 3 this year that they lost? So home road splits have always been a thing for Ben. For this team in particular, it's definitely a thing. I'll take my Steelers. I like Mike Tomlin, Ben Roethlisberger, come up with a big win at the end of the year. Make this interesting in the AFC North. Again, if the Browns and Ravens lose, Bengals and Steelers win, get a little more tightening in the AFC North. Going to make it a lot of fun in the last couple weeks of the season. All right, I'll talk to you guys next week.
There you have Tony's takes. Before we go and take ours, here's a couple super chats.
I got this one. It looks like Ray Rags 14 for $5. First, the Browns took my fun. Then they ruined my Christmas. Now they might have given me the vid. Next one from Rex Fortune for $10. Appreciate that, Rex. He says the Ravens had, SNC coach.
Strength and conditioning.
Yeah.
Strength and conditioning coach. Not follow protocol, so that's why they didn't get as much leeway. If it turns out that the Browns had people breaking protocol, I'm sure Kill will be the first up and ripping into them.
Yeah, I would rip into them if they were doing something stupid that caused this. The problem this year is just like last year there were set protocols. Basically, it was a bubble at your own facility, right?
Yep.
This year it ain't like that. They've
Nope.
loosened all those protocols, vaccinated, unvaccinated. So it ain't really like there's a leak in the system that one person could have leaked this year. So it's a little bit of a different situation. Also, look, I hear people bringing up all these different situations, and sometimes it's hard to decipher who's bringing up these situations because they're genuinely curious or not. But when we talk about the Broncos situation, right, where the Broncos didn't have 4 quarterbacks, their whole quarterback room tested, so they couldn't have a quarterback, right? That is a completely different situation, having 4 players on the list than having 24 players on the list, like the Browns did, like the Ravens did when they had to move those games. That is why it is not about the position group in which gets wiped out. It is the amount of players. This is why the news came out today that the game was being moved, not yesterday, because yesterday that was when the Browns quarterback room got wiped out. Today it got moved because like 3-4 more players tested on the list. So they had to move this game back because you're getting to a point to where you're not going to have enough active players on this team to be able to field a football game. That is it. It is not some conspiracy. Your favorite team is not getting shunted. If your team has 24 players that test positive for this, your game's going to get moved. That is the precedent that the league is setting. And if that happens and your game doesn't get moved, you have a legitimate gripe. But again, a lot of these situations people bring up, very different. The Broncos had 4 players on that list, not going to move a game for 4 players. They are going to move a game for 24.
Yep. And we have one more special here for Noah Sun 12. If Browns can play on Monday, they should forfeit. Well, I think they're going to make that game go Monday regardless. By Monday, I think half of those players should be clearing, especially as Q mentioned. If they're not presenting any symptoms, it should be fine. Okay, let's go and talk about this. Let's talk about the Steelers. Since Tony's not here, let's just jump into the Steelers game. This is a game that I think is, for me specifically, is 2 teams. They're up and down. I mean, Tennessee, for all their good, they have a lot of flaws, and then some weeks they look amazing, some weeks they look like meh. And especially after Henry, they lost Henry, right? They haven't been the same team. They have had some decent wins in between. Last week they were in a bye. I know they played the Jaguars. I'm just making the joke before I get hit in the timeline. But what do you guys think? What do you think, Ace? You think the Steelers pulls this game up, or you think they come in short?
Well, I think in this game, when you look at it, Tony is right. I think on the surface level, looking at this game, if you just look at the injuries, there are a ton of injuries for the Tennessee Titans in this game. Roger Stafford, as he mentioned. Also, I believe A.J. Brown is on IR in this one as well. He won't play. I believe Julio should play in this game. So it's a situation where you would think that those kind of injuries would bode well, I think, for Pittsburgh. But I actually think the opposite, right? We all know that the Achilles heel of the Pittsburgh Steelers, specifically that defense, Sonny, you've talked about this at length, is that run defense, right? Like we just watched Dalvin Cook run straight through them like a hot knife through butter a week ago or 2 weeks ago. I don't even know now with how the NFL is going.
That's Thursday night.
Thursday night, right. So this is a team in Tennessee that runs the ball. And honestly, whether they have Derrick Henry or not, I'm still kicking myself for not picking up Deontay Foreman because I am a Derrick Henry owner. They have still been able to establish the run. I mean, I think with not having an A.J. Brown in, that's probably what they lean on. And I mean, all metrics kind of say Pittsburgh's running defense is not good. There is nothing in my mind that is going to have me believe that Pittsburgh will somehow turn it on in this game. And so I think that that's going to be their downfall. I do think that they have a chance in this game. The other thing that's interesting that Tony didn't mention is that Bud Dupree could return for this game for Tennessee. I think he's going to return for this game. I mean, obviously, whenever you lose someone from a team and they get to play their team during the season, they're going to do whatever they can to play in that game. So what kind of impact does Bud Dupree have against the Steelers offensive front that he's obviously familiar with? I think back when Mike Hilton played against the Steelers, he tried to to run on a blitz before the snap because he thought he knew the snap count. I can only imagine what Bud Dupree knows about those guys in the trenches. And so, although I think Pittsburgh will put up a good fight against Tennessee, I don't think that this is a blowout or anything. I think the issue that they're going to run into is if you can't stop the run, that is going to play into Tennessee's hands, and they'll be able to actually milk a lot of the clock. And if the Pittsburgh Steelers get off to another sluggish start, I think that this game will be out of reach because they run out of time, not because it's that they're not good enough to play with the team like the Titans, but because that run game will be humming, they won't be able to stop it. And when you need those late stops at the end of the game to call timeouts and get the ball back to Ben, I don't think that that defense will be able to stop them in that one. So this one is in Pittsburgh, so that's going to be tough for Tennessee. But I think that Tennessee holds up in this one just simply because that's what they do is run the ball. And Sonny, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, we had 2 super chats here.
Gotcha. So it's AJ Kadir, I believe, for $1.99 with Mullins at QB. Q, do you think we can still win?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Mullins going to play, but honestly, look, I felt like they could win with Case Keenum. This game with Case Keenum, and like I know y'all getting y'all feelings about Case Keenum, man. But if you can win a game with Case Keenum, you can win it with Nick Mullins. Like it's not that big of a difference between the two. Honestly, Nick Mullins has more potential than a Case Keenum has. He hasn't had the worst 16 like game starts to his career. So yeah, I mean, it's Case Keenum, Nick Mullins. At that point, I don't think there's that much of a difference.
Okay. Then we have another super chat here from AJ Kandir.
Looks like, is the division up for grabs with the remaining games? I'll answer that. I think it's pretty evident that it is. It's very up for grabs. Even the Steelers aren't eliminated at this point. It's so far up for grabs. So obviously we're seeing what's going on in the league right now. Things outside of just, football are affecting the game. So I think it's definitely up for grabs. But I think like you said earlier, I'm glad that the NFL made this adjustment because just because it's not your team this week doesn't mean that it can't be your team next week. So luckily the NFL made these adjustments because this is not the time that you kind of needed something like this to spring up, especially with so many teams in the AFC competing for spots and with it being a division that's clearly still up for grabs.
I will say this. There was a super chat earlier about Raiders got screwed. And they didn't get screwed, but it sucks for them, right? It's same thing for the Steelers last year. The Steelers got 2 games moved, and it sucked for them because they were the team that was in the protocol, and then they played the Ravens on like a Tuesday, and they have to play again on Sunday. That kind of sucks, but you know what? It is what it is. If you're a Raiders fan watching this, it is what it is.
But they go Monday to Sunday, right?
They go Monday. Yeah. But you went
Sunday.
from Saturday to Monday, right? So you had extra time for that other Sunday game. That's my point. It sucks for them, but it's not the end of the world, right?
In all fairness, though, it sucks for the Browns too because now with their game moving, it's like a quick turnaround for them as well with the Green Bay Packers game.
No, I agree.
Christmas on Saturday. Like,
I agree.
I get where Raiders. I think Raider fans are overblowing it. To be honest, like it's not that big of a deal that this game got moved to Monday. But somebody like how this stuff. It happened with the Ravens last year when the Ravens. Everybody wanted to complain about it being the most unfair thing in the world to Pittsburgh, or whatever it is. Just when this happens, people love to gesture at imagined hypocrisy and kind of expose that they never read the rules to begin with, and they're just like want to be mad.
Yep, I agree. We had 3 super chats, and then I want Q's take on the Steelers.
So Siglo with the $5 super chat. I'm assuming that's PlayStation 4 for life. Just kidding. That's Pittsburgh Steelers for life. Q, I lived in Cleveland Heights. Family is still there, and this city has had some bad luck, bro. Corey Graham, appreciate that, Corey, with the $5 super chat. The Bengals play the rest of the season as clean as Quincy's fade. Bengals are your AFC North champs. I like that one, Corey. That fade is definitely fresh.
Shout out to my Baba Dame.
Yes, sir. Hey, I need to holler at him for real. Diddy with the $2 super chat. Ace and Q got fresh cuts just for the show.
I have to object here because I do have a fresh cut too.
Oh. We took the hat
Oh,
off.
tape. Okay.
I'll say this: in England, the fades are not as well made as in the US, but I don't have anything else.
You in England. It's hard to get a fade in England, I would imagine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not the easiest thing, but they have it. They have anyway. That's cute. What do you think of the Steelers game?
This is an interesting one, right? Because, like, in all realistic logic, they shouldn't win this game. But I've been watching the Steelers long enough to know that they're probably going to win this game. Why? Because this is a game the Steelers win, right? They look completely out of it versus Minnesota. They get their butts kicked. They almost come back and they roar back and then lose that game. What do the Steelers do all the time after that game? They win a game they're not supposed to, right? This is exactly what they did when they were going into that Indy game, right? Because was that before the Cincinnati game? The Indy game?
The Indy game, I'm not sure.
I believe they lost to Cincinnati last year. Hold on, let me double check that.
Oh, you're talking about last year? Okay.
Yeah.
Oof, I don't know.
I remember the Steelers. Okay, hold on, I'm gonna double check it. I'm gonna double check it just for y'all. But yeah. After they had lost by 10 points to Vanilla Vic and the Cincinnati Bengals, they beat the Indianapolis Colts. Had the bounce back performance. Everything's right.
Yeah.
They secured the division that day because the Browns also had this outbreak versus the Jets, ironically enough, the same time of year. And, they secured the division like that. But, this is just one of those things where I have to throw everything I know about football aside and just go with the Mike Tomlinism, which is this is just a game Mike Tomlin wins. It's always a game Mike Tomlin wins. He's probably going to win this game.
Okay. I will say this about this game. And I feel like I have a cliche in this show, but Tony mentioned something that worries me about the Tennessee Titans. Their O-line is not as healthy, and the Steelers' D-line is getting healthier for this game. That could present a problem. If the Steelers can moderate the running game, right? Make sure that they don't get gouged by big runs. The passing attack for Tennessee Titans, I don't think it's going to be that good. I think A.J. Brown, by the way, is one of my favorite receivers in the whole league. I love that guy. I love him coming out of college. Outside of the Ravens didn't get him, but whatever. So not having A.J. Brown is big because A.J. Brown's not only good receiving, it's once he receives the ball, that dude is just hard to take down. I don't think the Steelers had that many players in the secondary that can take that dude down. So not having him is big. Julio Jones, to be fair with Julio is good, but he's not the Julio Jones. When you hear Julio Jones, your expectation is Julio Jones. That's not the Julio Jones that Tennessee has, right? So I think they can contain Julio for him not to have a great game. So again, if they can keep the big running game for the Tennessee Titans to a minimum, and then they can produce pass rush to Tannehill, I think this game is a Steelers win. It's at home. I'm going to win Steelers by 6. Steelers by 6.
Ooh,
okay.
I like it.
Diddy here says, my best Sonny, you had the hat on. That's okay, man. I was just making fun. No, don't worry about it. Don't sweat it. Appreciate it. Tyler
Chiz for $199. Just cut my mop after 3 years. It's a sign. Q. Go JOK.
Okay, and with that, let's talk about this Bengals game. This for me is an interesting one. I have a couple Broncos fans. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna take care of the Bengals for you." I was like, "I don't know, man. I don't trust your team. Teddy Two Gloves. He's good when he wants to be. He's if you keep everything nice and tight for him, he can be good. I don't know. There's something about not Teddy, the whole Broncos team that I don't trust that. But Ace, I want to hear your take. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, man, I think you nailed it on the head when you say you can't trust this Broncos team. I remember picking them early in the season when they were on that streak, and really it was just because they were beating trash teams, but they went and played, I think, your Ravens earlier, and it wasn't a contest whatsoever. And so they've been a team that it's been hard to really get a gauge on coming into this game. But one thing I think that I am worried about is obviously this game is on the road in Denver, right? So you get the mile-high conditions in this one. And they also have a pretty good defense, right? Like that's never really been the issue for the Broncos is the defense. They like to run. They have some receivers, even though I just literally I believe, am getting ready to cut Cortland Sutton pretty soon here once waivers actually pass. And ironically, I'm picking up Julio Jones. But the way that Cortland Sutton has been playing the last 4 weeks, it has been bad over there. But the one thing that has always been the Broncos' problem, it seems like season after season after season, ever since Peyton Manning has retired, has been the quarterback position, right? Like Teddy Bridgewater isn't a bad quarterback by any means. He's kind of a guy that you just stick in there as a game manager, right? But he has had some times where he has turned the ball over uncharacteristically this season. You talk about 2 games ago, 2 interceptions there. But this one still worries me, right? Because the Bengals themselves have been turning the ball over. I think I looked at a metric that was on Twitter, and it was like expected points after turnovers, and the Bengals were dead last. That means that no team has been hurt more in the NFL by turnovers than this Bengals team. That's something that they can't do. Obviously, last week they had 2 of them with Darius Phillips on special teams. And if they want to try to win this game, they have got, and just try to win games completely through this stretch of 4 games, they have got to stop turning the ball over, right? Joe Burrow didn't do it, but like Sonny pointed out, there was a play that negated a potential Joe Burrow interception, and that's just not something that you can have happen in this game. But you guys know when it comes to me, any game that I evaluate, it always comes down to the quarterback position. And when I look at Joe Burrow in comparison to Teddy Bridgewater, I have to give the advantage to Joe Burrow. And so I think that that's something where we have the advantage at, right? And one thing I was talking to Zim, who was also talking to someone, I guess, I'm not sure if he wants me to reveal the identity, but this was a person that put out there that the safety that they have, Patrick Surtain Jr., the first-round pick.
The corner,
not safety, I'm sorry, has never really been able to stop Jamar Chase, whether that's at Nike camps, whether that's been in college. He's just kind of always been essentially taken off on by Jamar Chase. That is something that's interesting. That's something to watch for in this game, because I myself thought that Pat Surtain Jr. was one of the top corners in this draft. Obviously, he's had a very solid season to date, but this is going to be a big key matchup in this game to keep an eye on. And I think that the way that Burrow and Chase played last week could potentially be the X factor in this game. But honestly, I also think another X factor in what the Bengals should do in this game is run the ball. They got to get back to Joe Mixon. This is a Denver defense that is susceptible at points to the run if you're going to try to put up anything against them. The other thing is, on the flip side of this, the injuries on this game kind of make it confusing to kind of pick, because Melvin Gordon potentially may play in this game. He's questionable. I don't know if he is or not. Obviously, they still have Javon Williams, I believe the young man's name is, as well. So if the Bengals can shut down the run, which they're really good at doing that in the NFL, they're in the top 10. If they can continue that trend and force them to try to rely on just Jerry Jeudy himself, then I think that this bodes well for the Bengals, and that allows them the opportunity to take advantage in this game and get out of here with a quick win. I don't think that this is a blowout. I don't think that this is anything like that. But I am going to take the Bengals here simply because of the quarterback matchup of Teddy Bridgewater versus Joe Burrow, especially from what I saw last week. I don't think by any means it's an easy game. I can see why it's a toss-up. I can see why people would pick Denver. So I'm not going to sit here and just say that I'm comfortably picking the Bengals in this game. This could be one of those sneaky games where, the Bengals find themselves shaking their heads after this game. But I think with everything on the line, them losing 2 straight, this has to be a get-right game for them. So I'm going to go with the Bengals here, and I'm going to go with them 26-23. I'm going to take the Bengals 26-23 over the Denver Broncos here.
Yo, guys, I'll be right back. Something's happening here. Be right back.
Q, let's go ahead and go to yours, bro.
Yeah, I just don't think the Denver Broncos are a good team. Like, I just don't think they're a good enough team to beat a team that's as good as the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, this is a Denver Broncos team that lost to the Browns with Case Keenum out there. I think their 7-6 record is probably better than what they are as a team. They have a good defense, and at times that defense shows up, but also at times that defense just goes away and just doesn't isn't the force that you would expect them to be, especially against a Bengals team that could spread them out as much as they can with all of those wide receivers. TJ Uzoma is still going to be a factor in there, so you got to worry about him as well. And, I don't think they have a great pass rushing situation there either. So you look at that and what you have to axe out of that defense in order to win this game. And then you look at that offense, and I just can't help but lean in the direction of the Cincinnati Bengals here, because I just think on every side of the ball, the Cincinnati Bengals are just, quite frankly, a better team than the Denver Broncos, right? Defensively, when we talk about a better team, no, they don't have better names than the Denver Broncos. No, they don't have better highs than the Denver Broncos, but if you just look at their play over the course of this year, I think it's been better than the Denver Broncos. In the offense, I think unquestionably, I mean, like, who would you take? Would you take Teddy Bridgewater and the Goof Troop, or would you take Joe Burrow and the Migos, as Ace refers to them as? I would definitely take Joe Burrow in this. If this game gets tight, who are you going to think is going to win this game? I would lean towards the direction of the Cincinnati Bengals, because they have a quarterback who has proven that he can make those plays. Even if he's not having a good game necessarily, he can come back when it matters most and make those plays throughout this year. So I just see no real reason to go with the Denver Broncos here. I don't think the Denver Broncos are a team that's going to hold up to tough scrutiny here. Yes, both these teams are 7-6, but how both these teams got to 7-6 and what kind of 7-6 both these teams are, completely different. Bengals, I feel like, are a vastly better team than the Broncos. I don't really think this is going to be a close. I'm not going to predict a booty beatdown. I'm not going to put that juju on nobody, but I do think this is going to be at least, if the spread, I don't know what the spread is, but if the spread is 6.5, I would take the over.
The spread for this game is actually Broncos by 2.5 in this one.
Okay.
So I think he would be taking the points on the Bengals there. We have another super chat here. I'm going to read them. We can't put them up on the screen right now, but this one actually happens to be on the screen. It's Yeezy for POTUS, $2 super chat. Appreciate that, Yeezy. He says, the Browns need Q's barber so they can cut McLaughlin.
I want my barber to be out there kicking for the Cleveland Browns. I know what you're saying, though. It's a funny joke, but
no, that's facts.
The ideal of my one, that's gonna mess up my schedule with my barber, and two, I don't want to hate my barber. And whatever happens with the kicker, unless they are Justin Tucker, and I'm pretty sure my barber's not Justin Tucker.
No, that's facts. Rob Venters, the $4.99 super chat. He asked, what's more likely, the Browns winning the AFC North or the 7th seed? And if they get in, do you count the season as a success after all the controversy?
I don't think it's a success, right? I've said a long time ago that no matter what happens with the rest of this year, unless they make it to the AFC Championship game, it's hard to say this was a success, right? Because even if they do get the division, they kind of fell into it. That being said, just because it didn't reach the expectations that you had when you comes to level of play this year doesn't mean that the accomplishments that you get during this year can't be celebrated, right? So yeah, I would be happy if they win the division, but will I say this is a success? No, I would say they need to really prove a lot of things next year, because quite frankly, if this year was a success, we wouldn't be asking questions about Baker Mayfield. We wouldn't be asking questions about Kevin Stefanski. And I think even if this team does squeak out and win a division, we're still asking those questions about those main pieces of this rebuild. So I don't know how you can consider it a success when we have those questions out there looming. When this is going to be a quote unquote success is when we no longer have questions about that and we only have answers about that, right? That's why the Bengals season feels like more of a success than the Browns season, because they feel like they have definitive answers at coach and quarterback, where the Browns, we thought we were there last year. We took some steps back in that front this year.
All right, so we got another one from Ray Rags, 14 for $10. Appreciate that, Ray Rags. He says it would be unfair to the Raiders if they were forced to move their bye week like Pittsburgh was last year, but they weren't. The Browns got punished by how the schedule falls, but they can't complain about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of nuance in this that, I've seen what the Raiders players are tweeting out there. Look, the ideal that just because the NFLPA president is on the Cleveland Browns, and that moved the game when there were 3 other games. That is wildly reckless speculation on the part of the Raiders. And if this were something where the Raiders NFLPA president was the NFLPA president was on the Raiders and Browns players were speculating like that, I would call that just as reckless, just as baseless, and just as irresponsible as what the Las Vegas Raiders are doing right now. Like the fact to insinuate that this is corruption when there is prior cases to show you why this game is being moved, and quite frankly, why are they so not confident in their ability to beat a Cleveland Browns team that quite frankly has been struggling, that they feel like they have to play the Browns when they only have 40 active players. Like, that's what I can't respect out of what's coming out of that camp. It just seems very salty. And honestly, it seems like there's a lack of gamesmanship in that, right? Like, I would want the Raiders to be as healthy as possible when they play them. I know in the AFC North, we want teams to be as healthy as possible when you play them so you can prove a point. The fact that the Raiders are out here crying because they can't play the Browns' 3rd-string quarterback and 4th-string offensive line, that's kind of pathetic. And the fact that they're resulting to conspiracy theories about it, in my personal opinion, I find that also kind of pathetic.
Nah, I'm with you. Yeah, to throw conspiracy theories in it is definitely kind of wild for sure. We got another super chat here from, I'm assuming that stands for Tampa Bay Patriot, or TB
Tom
Patriot
Brady.
for $4.99, or Tom Brady Patriot. Yep, could be that as well. Will the resurgence of OBJ and the decline of Mayfield lead to Stefanski's firing?
Why would that lead to Stefanski's firing? Is my question back at that, because the release of OBJ wasn't a Stefanski decision. That was an Andrew Berry decision, right? And that point got there. Now you can blame Stefanski and why it got to the point that it did. But again, man, Stefanski's worst year this year is better than the best year of like most Cleveland Browns coaches. So the idea that he's going to get fired this year because of some technicalities that happened with him and OBJ, or the decline of Baker Mayfield, when the whole organization, quite frankly, wasn't sold on him, that's why they didn't extend him in the offseason, is kind of ridiculous here. Look, Stefanski ain't going nowhere. Stefanski's not getting fired. I'm happy that OBJ is having a resurgence, and I think part of the reason OBJ did not do well here isn't because he didn't want to. I felt like he did want to be successful here. It's just, the 3 minds there, Stefanski, OBJ, and Baker Mayfield, just couldn't put everything aside to find a way to make it work. And OBJ, with a fresh start there in LA, they're finding a way to make it work, and that's good on him. Look, I've been telling y'all OBJ is still good, and I'm happy to see that he's still good. But I don't think that makes you fire your head coach. That's something a very dysfunctional organization would do. And I don't think the Browns, despite the fact that they haven't played well this year, I don't think they're dysfunctional.
Yeah, so one thing I do want to touch on before we get Sunny's take here on this Bengals game, I kind of want to, because I didn't end up talking about it. The Bengals also do have some key injuries. You talk about Riley Reef being on IR. You talk about Cheeto also being out this game. Logan Wilson being out this game. Sonny, you're a big trenches guy. What are your thoughts on this game between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Denver Broncos?
Sorry. And I apologize that I have to leave my daughter. She's not doing really well right now. But anyway, so this is an interesting game. I agree with some of your takes, Ace, because one thing the Broncos are not super strong are a middle linebacker. Their D-line is okay, but not great. I think you establish their run. Their secondary is their strength for that defense. Their pass rush is not even great either. So not having Reed is a problem, but against the Broncos, you might be fine. I don't think Chubb is back. He's been out all year, basically. I don't think he's going to be back for this game either. So I think this is a game where you establish the run and hit them with a play action. The Bengals' injuries with Logan Wilson, that for me is concerning because Denver does run the ball fairly well. But my thing will be, can Reader and those guys in the middle of the D-line can, clock that lane so then the O-line doesn't get to that second level. Because if it gets to the second level, that's when you start getting problems. But if the D-line can contain that offensive line, for the Denver Broncos, which is okay. They're better on the ends. They're softer on the inside. Their center's not great. I think this is a big game for Reader. I think the Reader might even be able to pressure Teddy. I think matchup wise, this is a game where the Broncos or the Bengals are good, and I will lean advantage in most of the key places for the Bengals. The only thing is in Denver, right? And Denver is a funny place to play. Can you get used to some players struggle a lot playing in Denver, right? If they can get used to playing in Denver, like in the first quarter or so, I think this is a game that the Bengals should win. And the other side, if you cannot, you struggle with it, and this is player by player. You never know if you haven't played in Denver. Then obviously the Broncos players are used to playing in Denver, so that can be advantage Broncos. But overall, I understand not having Cheeto. That can be problematic, but I don't think the Denver Broncos have enough ways to exploit that secondary for the Bengals.
All right, so let's get into some super chats. So, Sonny, you're taking the Bengals there in this one,
Yep.
correct?
Yeah.
All right. Just want to make some announcements just based off of some of the comments. We're here for football, man. Honestly, it doesn't matter what your views are other than the game. So please keep that to a minimum, keep that respectable. But this is the AFC North Talk. We're here to talk about football, nothing else other than that. With that being said, let me get into my man Diddy super chat here. He says, I don't trust us to win. See the Jets game for us. So, yeah, I am kind of – I mean, it's not – we have had some questionable losses there, some head-scratching losses. So
I would say, though, the Bengals have won more of these kind of games than they have lost, though, this year. Like, I think the rest of the AFC North has been far worse in this respect. When it comes to games that they probably should win, that they absolutely, like, kind of blow. Like, the Bengals, I think they had that one hiccup versus the Jets. I don't know if you consider that Browns game a game they should have absolutely won because the Browns weren't a trash team at that time. But they have taken care of business against like the Lions and the Browns and decisively, right? The Browns got it done, but you know what I mean? The Ravens got it done, but the Steelers didn't even get it done, right? So, when it comes to that, like,
now, I would say this, Q. Remember, the hiccups that the Bengals have had against bad teams have been on the road, right, Ace? Jets in New York, Bears at Chicago.
Bears in
That's
Chicago.
the big thing, right? This is still a road game.
But the Detroit game was in Detroit.
Yeah, that is true. But I was going to say, it's still a road game, and road games, even if the opponent is not great, games on the road can always be tricky. I think the Bengals should win, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, anytime you have a team that has to go on the road, it's always a different kind of challenge there, right? Got another one here from Steve C for $4.99. Comparison to last year's Broncos game is moronic. People acting like we're getting bailed out when we still won. Won't have 15 plus players on Monday. So I'm assuming that we're still talking about the Browns game.
Yeah, I think he's talking about the Browns game.
He's talking about the Broncos when they had the 3 quarterbacks out.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about. Yep.
Yeah, when they had the quarterback room because of contact tracing, which isn't even an app. And by the way, again, I don't know how people forgot. The rule was the games would not be moved if your team was not at a certain level of vaccinated players, right? Or a certain percentage of vaccinated players. Every team has passed that threshold this year and has maintained that threshold. So games would be moved if something like this would be broken out. I don't know where people again, I guess people weren't aware of that rule or of how that was going to go down. The only way a team would forfeit is if they did not have that percentage. But since every team's at that percentage, if stuff like this happens, they're going to move the games around because that's what they said at the beginning of the year. Again, if anybody needs clarification on that.
One thing for the Broncos, because I keep hearing the Broncos thing be brought up. The league did an investigation and concluded the Broncos deliberately broke protocol in the quarterback room that year. So they didn't have a bunch of team outbreak, and they, in my opinion, also wanted to make an example. This is happening because you didn't follow the protocol that we established, right, for your quarterback room. So this is all on you. This is why all your quarterbacks are on COVID lists. So we're not gonna, since this is something almost self-inflicted, we're not gonna move this game. I think that was a big thing for the Broncos game.
And I mean, let's just be real here, right? Like, there's nobody more, I think, than the guys on this panel, other than Quincy, that would be looking forward to a Browns loss, right? With us all being in this race, but this isn't the way for it to happen. Like, we don't want to see a team, like, at the end of the day, what's the alternative, right? Like, you're going to bring up Nick Mullins, who hasn't played with the team, like, whatsoever in any form or fashion. That's just not going to be good football. That's not the way that you would want to, like, win this division, right? That's not how you would really look forward to this. And people talking about they should forfeit games, that is honestly ridiculous at this point when you know what's on the line. If I'm not mistaken, it's almost 26 teams in the NFL this year that are competitive. Why in the late season would you want a team to forfeit a game with so much on the line? I don't agree with that whatsoever. Diddy has a super chat here for $2. He says Trey Waynes is playing and Fred Johnson, is starting. Fred Johnson is starting at right tackle. Trey Waynes, this is going to be like his second game in like 2 years. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that.
Is that Fred the Sled? Is he back?
Fred the Sled. He is going to be there. He is going to be there. Dallas Few, a super chat of $5. Appreciate that, Dallas. He says, Bengals fan from Lakewood, Ohio, got to meet Ace at the Jags game. Houday, and I think me and Q might have the same barber. Appreciate that, Dallas. I'm glad that we got to connect at the Bengals game. But guys, I think it's time for us to get into the final game for us to talk about, which will be the Ravens.
Wait,
I believe.
You guys talk about the Browns game already?
Wait, no, we didn't talk. Wait, yeah, wait, no, we didn't. We didn't. So we need to get into let's get into the Browns game.
I don't know how we talk about this game, to be honest with you, because we still don't know who's going to play.
I agree. We can just do it very.
I think it's probably going to be very brief.
Yeah.
No, my thing with this game, right, for the Browns Raiders is I think if you have Nick Chubb, if you have Myles Garrett, and you have enough pieces on their defense back, you can still beat the Raiders, even if you don't have Baker Mayfield. Honestly, I'm more worried about the offensive lineman coming back more than I am about Baker Mayfield coming back, because I know that that's probably going to be more effective to this game here. You are going to have David Njoku back. You're not going to be completely helpless. And we'll see. We'll see who plays on Monday. Actually, we have no idea what the case is going to be for this week. But I still think that, it's not an unwinnable game. Again, if you don't have Miles and you don't have Jadeveon and you don't have a lot of key pieces, okay, you know what I mean? But as long as we got Miles on defense, Jadeveon, JOK, the franchise, Denzel Ward, and all those franchise players I talk about on that defense, then I think you're going to be okay. And I think Nick Chubb can give you enough to win that game. I wouldn't expect them to win that game, but I think it's definitely possible that they can pull it out. For the Raiders, again, it depends on which Raiders team shows up. It seems to be one or the other. I don't expect the Raiders to be this well-run team that's just going to take advantage of what the Browns have going on. And honestly, it doesn't seem like that's how that locker room has kind of came together with each other. So we'll see what happens on Monday. It's kind of hard to make any definitive determinations right now. That's why I've held off on doing a preview, because what am I previewing? Like, I have no idea what I'm a preview. Some matchups, what matchups? I have no idea what's going to be out there. So we'll see.
No, that's facts. Before we get into Sunday's take on this game, I'll go to a super chat from the Fox Den Gaming for $4.99. He says, Q, you are right. I think Kevin will get that play calling down, just like Reed. Hit the playmakers. We need Bake to be Bake. Need that even year, 2022.
It's referring a couple of tweets I've put out over the week where I mentioned that, hey, look, Andy Reid was one of those guys back in the day when he was in Philly. He used to drive people crazy because in the crunch time, he would go to all these wacky plays and he would try to draw up something instead of just going to his playmakers. He used to drive T.O. crazy. He used to drive Donovan McNabb crazy. And it was one of those things that he had to learn not to do. And if you look at him at the end of this game, right, against the Chargers, what happened? He said, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. There are going to be three players that touch this ball. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill, right? It's what us basketball fans know as the playoff roster, right? Maxi Kleber might get 20 minutes in the regular season, but he's sitting on the bench. There's a 8-man rotation, right? In basketball, there's always a joke of like the deepest team never matters because you're only going to run 8 guys out there at the end of the postseason. And that's what, you got to do in crunch time, right? No more time for trick plays or trying to get like certain guys open or scheme a play open for, somebody like who is it? Like an Anthony Schwartz or something like that. No, it's time to settle in, right? The Browns need somebody to get the ball at the end of the game. Ball should either be in the hands of Kareem Hunt. It should probably either be in the hands of Nick Chubb or Jarvis or David Njoku, whichever one you're trusting more that day. But that's who should be getting the ball. That's who should be in position to make plays for this offense. And I think that's a lesson Kevin will learn, man. Like coaches have learning curves. We can't fire coaches after imagine if Bengal fans would have fired Zach Taylor after this.
They want to after that game.
They want to fire Zach Taylor still, right? But I'm pretty sure every year there's some reason to fire your coach. Raven fans have wanted to fire John Harbaugh. Mike Tomlin's always on the hot seat with Steeler fans. People tend to not have patience with coaches, but that's one of those spots that you need to be patient again. And then the best example I could bring you is the greatest coach of all time, Bill Belichick, who had 5 years in Cleveland in which he was only over 500 once. Only over 500 once. He made the playoffs, won a playoff game. And in the 95 season, you can kind of wash that off because the team was moving in the middle of it. But 5 years wasn't a great first 5 years, and he was a pain in the ass to deal with, right? If you deal with anybody who was in the Cleveland media at the time, they hated Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick was hated in this city when he was here. And then he turned it around, learned from that experience, and became the great. And he even says it. He learned from that experience and became the greatest coach of all time. Coaches have learning curves. We got to look at this like we would look at a young quarterback. And if Kevin Stefanski were in his second year and 7-6, the worst he could do, man, we'd be excited about that quarterback, wouldn't we? So, I think we just tend not to have patience with that. Also, the even year thing, Baker Mayfield tends to be awful in these odd years for whatever reason it is, right? 2019 trash, 2021 trash, 2020, 2018 fire. So if we could just get past January, we might have something. Who knows?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, Sonny, with that being said, what's your take on this Cleveland and Las Vegas game?
I'll make it short. I think if the Browns have these players, they win the game. Myles Garrett, the O-line, and the running backs. The running backs, the Raiders are not great against the run, and Cleveland's running game is still strong. I know Q has talked about, and I will say this against the Ravens, even though they won and lost one, the running game was never a factor in those two games. But for the most part, there are a big run team, right? Meaning that they would cave 2-3 yards here, and then they run a big one, and then a couple of small ones, and then they run a big one. And that's all. That might be all they need. The thing with the Raiders, the problem with the Raiders is, for all the things that we talk about the Browns, the Raiders are equally as inconsistent. And as far as I know, I think Waller's not playing in this game.
Yeah,
at least
Waller's out.
Yeah. So that's big, right? So can they get and defend Renfro, or however you pronounce his name? Sorry if I mistake it. But Renfro. Yeah, he's a sneaky guy over there in the slot. But other than him, who else, right? They don't have another playmaker, especially with Waller out. Jacobs as a running back is okay, but again, not having Waller is big. So I think this defense should be able to contain the offense for the Raiders. And on the offensive side, if they can have the O-line and the running backs healthy, if Baker's there, then great. But if Baker's not there, if the rest of the O-line and the running backs are good, I think they can put enough points to win this game.
All right. Before I get into my take on this game, I'm going to get into some super chats here. Actually, let me move down here. We got one from Eclectic Tyrone for $5. Appreciate that, bro. He says, why forfeit? Because it's the only way my Ravens can make it. We are going to get crushed. And then we got another one here from Ray Rags 14 for $5. I saw Clowney tested positive, but it hasn't been confirmed by the team themselves. So I'll get into my take on this one. And obviously, like everyone is saying, we don't know who is going to play, right? We don't know who's playing Monday at 5 o'clock, but I do know who's not going to play for the Raiders. It is going to be my man, Darren Waller. And to be honest with you, who on the Raiders can do anything outside of Darren Waller? Like, I don't trust that in this game. I think that plays into Cleveland's hands because, like Sonny has said, Hunter Renfrow is not going to turn up in this game, especially if Denzel Ward is playing in this game. So offensively, what does that leave for the Raiders to do? They've been an up and down team. They've been inconsistent. Honestly, I think back all the way back to when they had the AB saga, they just have never really had any wide receivers, right? They've got Darren Waller. They don't have him. How can they even move the ball in this game against a Cleveland defense that, as long as they have Myles Garrett, they're going to be fine. Like, this guy is having a defensive player of the year type year, and Myles Garrett, he just got added to the 99 club in Madden. I know it's just Madden, but we know who else is in the 99 club on Madden: Aaron Donald. That speaks to how good of a player Myles Garrett is. He's a guy that can wreck this game. Derek Carr and the Raiders have just been up and down. I think that this will be a game that the Cleveland Browns end up coming out with the victory. Maybe even if Nick Mullins is playing, because all they have to do is hand it off to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And I don't think that they're going to be worried at all defensively about this Raiders offense and what they can do without their primary target, Darren Waller, who at 1 week, I think they threw like 17 targets at the guy. He's not there. So I don't trust the Raiders to be able to move the ball on offense. I do trust the Cleveland Browns defense as well as that offense to be able to run the ball, especially at home in this game. So I'm going to take the Browns in this one, even with all of the unknowns. I know one thing. I know the Raiders don't have their best player on offense.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Quinn.
Yeah, and one thing to note, to kind of respond to the super chat, the report is, and I don't know if I misworded this, Jadeveon Clowney is going to be added to that list tomorrow. They know that for it. That's been reported by several reputable sources. That's going to happen. So that's going to probably be confirmed tomorrow. Much like the Grant Delpit one was something that was meant to be reported, meant to be listed the day after as well. And yeah, Ace, I think you hit it right on the head. Like, I think a lot of people, when they hear franchise player, they think of an offensive guy, but the Browns franchise player is Myles Garrett. Like, that's the franchise right there. Yeah. That's who you worry about when you play the Browns. Everything else is everything else when you play the Browns. Yeah, Nick Chubb, he's a good player. Yeah, JOK, that's good. But, Denzel Ward, all that. But first things first, what are we going to do about Myles Garrett? Because if we do nothing about Myles Garrett, we're going to have a bad day, right? That is the Bengals' number one fear. That is the Ravens' number one fear. Like, Myles Garrett is the face of the Cleveland Browns in that way that it's very rare that a defensive player can become. So shout out to Myles. He's having that great of a year. Just one of my favorite players to watch ever.
Yeah. Think about this. The best two outside or edges pass rushers currently in the NFL are in the AFC North.
Oh, yeah.
In the same draft class. And the Browns could have had them both. But they drafted Jabril Peppers.
Peppers, man. Instead. That's a good.
By the way, look, they lucky they got Myles Garrett in that draft, or else that would look really bad, because not only in that draft did they trade away the pick that would eventually become TJ Watt, they also could have had a realistic opportunity to get Patrick Mahomes if they really wanted to. They didn't do that. But hey, at least they didn't draft Mitchell Trubisky number 1 overall. Like, certain people in the building were trying to make happen. Like, it was a struggle to get Myles Garrett in the first place. That's why.
Really? I thought in that draft it was like a guarantee Myles Garrett. That was like a done deal.
No. It should have been a guarantee, but there were forces at play. We got to get the hometown kid. We got to get a quarterback.
From Ohio? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Mitchell Trubisky's not just from Ohio. He is from Mentor, Ohio, which is close enough to Cleveland. Like, that's Cleveland. They used to play in my high school's conference. Like, I think I saw Mitchell Trubisky play my freshman year because my high school played him. But yeah, man, that almost happened. Like, there is a parallel universe where the Browns, instead of drafting Myles Garrett, took Mitchell Trubisky. And right now, taking Myles Garrett over Patrick Mahomes is kind of like when you take Elijah Wan over Jordan. They're two different players. You can't really compare them, but they're both probably going to be in the Hall of Fame, so you didn't really miss. Oh, man, but if you would have drafted Sam Bowie, a.k.a. Mitchell Trubisky, number 1 overall, oh, man, you think the Bears got it bad for taking him number 2? Whew. Imagine the Bears would have had Khalil Mack and Myles. Oh, my goodness. They almost it really came this close, y'all.
I still don't understand from that draft how Mitchell Trubisky was being considered higher or ranked higher than Deshaun Watson. I
I would
honestly,
never understand that
Injuries.
either, but it's one of those things that
It
once
was
we got
injuries.
to the draft, it's like how Teddy Bridgewater fell below Johnny Manziel somehow during the draft process. It's one of those things that we knew were ridiculous at the start of the season, at the end of the football season, but the draft process did its thing, and all of a sudden people just kept talking about Mitchell Trubisky, and all of a sudden he became the number one quarterback prospect instead of Deshaun Watson, who I actually was like, I don't know, maybe we should get Deshaun Watson number one overall in that draft. But we did trade that pick that ended up being Deshaun Watson again. Like that draft could have been remembered as badly as that 2014 draft, but you got Myles Garrett and David Njoku's good. So hey,
yeah, you come away.
It ain't
unfazed.
Justin Gilbert and Johnny Manziel.
You come away unfazed with that one. I thought like when they were talking about this thing, it wasn't even about injury, Sonny. They were trying to say that Deshaun Watson was inaccurate. They didn't. They had concerns.
Yeah, they had completely just taken him out as a prospect. It wasn't.
Yeah, and I was like,
they were like the book on Deshaun Watson was he did not have a strong enough arm to play in the NFL.
Yeah, it was that he wasn't accurate, and I'm like, what other evidence do you need other than this man throwing for like 400 or 500 yards against Alabama? You know, while they were a juggernaut. And winning a national championship against them, against a guy that had a resume and Mitch Trubisky as a former receiver who had 1 year under his belt of playing quarterback. That was kind of baffling.
I was on the Watson train that whole year because I think he beat down Ohio State the year before, and that really was like, and then you just saw him play the whole year, and I was like, he doesn't have great arm strength, but he has good zip, and sometimes just having enough zip is what matters, right? You know, the arm strength stuff can sometimes be overblown, but yeah, Deshaun Watson, man, I don't know how people talk themselves into that. I get how people talk themselves out of Patrick Mahomes because that was look, hindsight's 2020 on that one. That was easy to talk yourself out of.
Yeah.
In hindsight,
I agree.
Because the man did not have that much he had great production, but he didn't have that many wins. You know, he had a lot of interceptions.
And there was the
polish. That thing looked like a 4-year rebuild, right? That's what people were talking about with him. Oh, it's going to be a rough rebuild. We did not think he was going to have the greatest first year of all time. Like nobody thought that about Patrick Mahomes. So I get how he was missed, but the Deshaun Watson one is one of those ones where you can't trust what some of these dudes be out here saying during draft season. And sometimes you just got to go with what happened during the year, right? Like that does matter what you did do on tape. And that was one of those situations where it got away from everybody. And I don't understand how. I thought the Browns going to walk away with Watson and Myles Garrett. I was so happy. Then they traded that pick for Jabril Peppers and missed on TJ Watt. So, you know, hey, look, man, sometimes you get one good player in the first round. That's good enough. And they got Myles Garrett.
So Ray Rags 14 here has a $2 super chat here. Says that Tim Couch says that he's ready to play if needed.
Shout out to Tim Couch.
So I think that will finally bring us to the Ravens game. In this game, I believe Sonny is at home against the Green Bay Packers. There are questions surrounding Lamar. Is he going to play or not? Sonny, let's start off with you in this game on how you see this one playing out.
So Lamar, first of all, it's going to be a game time decision. I already stressed, and then Tony got really funny with it. My sentiments, what they should do with Lamar for this game. Like, Chuck Clark might not play, and that will put us in our starting secondary. Will only have one player from like the beginning of the year. That's it, and that is Tavon Young, the slot corner. The rest are just guys that we just put there. Guys that have been playing good, some of them have not played great. Calais Campbell, I think, is also a game time decision. I wouldn't expect Calais Campbell to play. And I'm saying this because of the defense against, and specifically in this game, it's going to be the biggest problem. The offense has issues. And Zadarius Smith is coming, I think, back in this game. And similar to what Ace said about Bud Dupree going against the Steelers, Zadarius Smith wants to show the Ravens, you let me go, I'm going to eat. And, we know our issues on the edges between Alejandro Villanueva and Phillips right now, or if Macari comes back, I don't know. But either one will be a problem. Look, the problem that I have with this game is our secondary is so bad, and you have a guy there in Green Bay. I think it's kind of good. Yeah, kind of good, right?
Tear up the secondary.
Yeah, he's okay. That dude over there,
He's
he
a
doesn't
little
even.
bit better than Baker Mayfield. I would say.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I would give him that nod.
yeah. He's a tiny bit. And then on the receiving side, they also have a dude over there. They it's kind of good. Some people think he's a little bit above average over there on the receiving side. I don't know how we're gonna cover them. Cover because the other thing is we haven't been able to pass rush consistently. And although I love what my guy has doing with Lafayette, as the season has gone, you can see him slowing down, right?
Hold on 1 second.
Well,
We have a visitor.
Hey, what's happening, boys?
Tony hiding a fresh fade underneath.
Yeah, fresh fade. Yeah, I got my fresh. Listen, guys. I'm looking
fresh buzz. He
smooth.
cleaned up. He cleaned.
That's
he
right.
used the Manscaped clippers.
Clean up out here in
I don't
Denver.
know how sanitary it is, but
Go ahead, Sonny.
no. So what I was saying is this game, I think, is going to be very difficult for the Ravens to win. I don't see how the secondary is going to cover Adams. Adams essentially is like two receivers. I guess the Ravens will feel like two receivers instead of one. We're gonna have to put so much resources in there that I can see other receivers also having a decent game. The running side, I think we're probably gonna do a decent job against their run. But and on the other side, if Lamar doesn't play, which again I think he won't play, Huntley, yeah, I think he had a good game against Cleveland. He probably caught them in surprise, especially in the second half. But I don't think he's gonna have that affect the game against the Green Bay Packers team that defensively have been playing better, and then you get Darius Smith might play, but he might come back, and if he comes back again, he's probably gonna want to shoot Baltimore. This is what you missed. So, yeah, I think this is a game that I'm not gonna be happy, but I'm not probably gonna be sweating it. I'm gonna be relaxed because it's gonna be from the get-go not a good game for the Ravens. I'm picking the Packers probably by 14. Sadly.
Okay. All right. I'll give my take on this game. Now, Ravens fans, I know you guys say that I always am not picking you. I don't know what the record is on that. That's not intentional or anything like that. But there is no way in hell I am picking you guys in this one because this is Aaron Rodgers and this is Devontae Adams. And it's no disrespect, but as Sonny is saying, if you're going into this game without Lamar Jackson, without Marlon Humphrey, I don't know what to tell you. Like teams that are fully healthy kind of are worried against going against the Green Bay Packers in this one. If you're telling me that it's going to be the backup, and I think that the guy did play admirable last week in Huntley in that performance, but this is Aaron Rodgers and this is the Green Bay Packers, and this is during a time in the season where this team is definitely revving up for playoff mode. It's a shame that the injuries have taken from this game, essentially, because when you probably, me included, looked at this on the calendar, you were probably saying, man, this is going to be a great game to watch. I can't wait to see Lamar Jackson versus Rodgers. I want to see them duke it out. And it's a shame that, the injuries have affected this game. But being that, the Packers are completely, for the most part, healthy, minus Kenny Clark not being in this game, offensively, I think it's just going to be a mismatch for a Ravens defense where I sound like a broken record, has struggled against the pass on defense. And you're facing what some consider the best quarterback in football, and also some consider the best receiver in football, just does not bode well for the Ravens. I think what they look to do in this game, obviously you always want to win, but just don't get embarrassed in this game, because then there will be a lot of talk about Lamar Jackson and the Ravens bringing him back to try to somewhat keep their grasp on this season. I think if you keep this close, it's respectable. Everybody's going to understand. Nobody's going to get upset that the Ravens lost to Aaron Rodgers and the Packers in a game of this fashion without their superhero and Lamar Jackson. And that's why I've always said this whole season, even when you have those injuries, as long as you have number 8, you should be straight. You do not have number 8. I don't know what to make of what is going to happen in this game with the Ravens having any kind of chance of winning. So I'm going to take the Packers here in this one. Hopefully the Ravens can keep it respectable in this one, but it's just the chips where they're falling with this matchup are just not in their favor.
Before the rest of the panel goes, I have to actually bounce. But
all
yeah.
right, Sonny. We hope that everything
You
is
guys.
okay with the fam.
Yeah,
we'll
we're
hold it
looking at
down for you. Appreciate that, man.
Appreciate it.
Q, we're gonna go ahead and get into your take for this game.
Yeah. So I don't know how to make this interesting, y'all. They got Westry and whoever on the best quarterback and wide receiver duo in the NFL right now. Look, I know they had some success versus Baker Mayfield in this passing attack, but I think there is a world of difference. And this is coming from a guy who roots on the Browns and does defend Baker Mayfield from time to time in this passing game. I don't defend him that much this year, I'll be honest with you. But this is coming from somebody who would not want to say this, but there is like a massive gulf of difference between how the Green Bay Packers passing attack has been this year versus the Browns. Now, this is not a Ravens team that even when they were healthy with Hump was playing great football to start. So no, man. This is I'm not going to predict what y'all want me to predict, but I don't see how the Ravens win this game. I do think they'll keep it close. I think they'll keep it within 10 points. I don't think there's going to be an embarrassing game off of them because I think they'll play hard enough, whether it's Huntley in there or Lamar. It's probably Huntley. But, yeah, man, I really wish I could make this interesting, but I just don't think there's really a way the Ravens can win this game. If they do, shout out to them. That's a great coaching job. That is a great coaching job, and they deserve all the credit in the world. And Aaron Rodgers probably would have to have like a baffling bad game or get hurt or something, but I just don't think this is going to happen.
I found a way to make this fun, Q. Let's say hypothetically.
Only way we can make this fun
Huntley
is if somebody
wins this game. Huntley wins this game against the Green Bay Packers. Is it a quarterback controversy in Baltimore?
Yeah.
It's a quarterback controversy, but it's not going to be in Baltimore. It's going to be for whatever team decides to give Huntley the bag in the offseason. That's what that will be the Matt Flynn, right? Remember when Matt Flynn had that good game with Green Bay and then the Seahawks gave him the bag. Yes, this will be a Matt Flynn moment. If Huntley, pulls it out, has a great game, some teams going to talk themselves into it. It might be the Cleveland Browns. It might be somebody. It might be Pittsburgh, right? Oh, we could do that. We could run this offense. Oh, man, we're going to bring Tyler Huntley in and do exactly what Baltimore is doing. And then he's probably going to become Tyler Huntley again. But,
I know we're all kind of like writing on. I mean, I did in the video too, right? I basically just wrote off any chance to Baltimore. I guess we should look when you got a team coached by John Harbaugh, right? No matter who's out there, you got to give him at least a puncher's chance. And I think there probably is a version of this game. You guys talked about, how they're going to stop this Packers offense, and it's a good point. But the number one way to do it, right? Traditionally in the National Football League, how do you stop a high-powered offense? Keep them off the field, And with Huntley, I do think that you get fresh legs. And, this is not a slight on Lamar, but we know Lamar's ankle has been bothering him. He has not been the same in the second half of the season. And I thought Huntley on, just using his legs last week did provide a little spark, even in that running game, even a little bit. And just that little bit, again, I'm not saying like, Huntley's going to go out there and score 30 and this is going to be a shootout, right? But if they can at least extend some drives, even empty empty drives, like empty yards, get a nice 30-yard drive where you punt at the end of it. That's fine if it's a 4 or 5 minute drive. Aaron Rodgers isn't out there, and then you can, and defensively you can try to win the line of scrimmage, maybe get some pressure on Rodgers. I mean, I guess there's a version of this game that plays out like a Steelers game where it's just kind of an ugly football game for 3 quarters, and the fourth quarter, it's kind of a coin flip.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, the aspect of having a quarterback that you don't have much film on is always the unknown. Like, we don't know if the Green Bay Packers defense is going to really be able to stop Huntley. And I think, like you said, if he does get lucky and he does extend some things, obviously he's going to go to different players. There could be some confusion there. So you got to give him a puncher's chance. It's just tough going against discount double check Aaron Rodgers.
Don't disrespect the belt, Raven fans. Don't, whatever you do it. Hey, if Owe gets a sack on Aaron Rodgers, do not disrespect the belt. Leave that alone. Like, you don't want to see nobody do this. because when the Bears did that, he just like, okay, and it just turned it up on them. No, absolutely not. Do not disrespect the belt, Raven fans. And that goes for Myles Garrett the week after, because I know Myles loves to celebrate after he gets sacks, but he need to lead that one out the rotation. Don't disrespect the belt.
So got another super chat here from my man Ray Rags. I appreciate you, Ray, for doing what you have done definitely on this episode. We appreciate that. He says the Browns could have had a great team just with the players that were taken with the picks they traded away. Julio Jones, Sammy Watkins, Carson Wentz, Jack Conklin, and Deshaun Watson, just to name a few.
Oh, yeah. The Browns' history with trading picks in the first round is precisely why I hate the ideal of trade downs and will hate the ideal of trade downs for legitimately the rest of my life, probably, right? Like, I will never be okay with it. Let's just trade down and no, just draft somebody good. Just wherever you're at, just draft somebody good. Do not trade back and try to get cute. Oh, we're going to get Phil Taylor and then a bunch of picks and not get Julio Jones, because you know what ends up happening when you don't draft Julio Jones? It's the most obvious thing in the world. You don't draft Julio Jones, so you don't have good players. So, yeah, man, the Browns' history with trading back, we could go down. I made a video once. The Browns could have had like Russell Wilson with all those picks that they had there. They didn't do it. They have a terrible history with trading back picks. I don't know if it's just exclusive to Cleveland, but it's also why I think having a bunch of draft picks, wild overrated. It is one of the most overrated concepts in the world. When you have all them first round picks, it's wildly overrated. Oh, Q, you have more picks, so there's a chance that you might hit. Nah, dog. The Browns had all them picks from 2015 to 2018, and the only one they really hit out the park, well, not 2018, from 2015 to 2017, they had all those picks, right? Multiple first-round picks in all those drafts. And the only dude you could say they legitimately hit on was the guy that everybody told you better draft, and that's Myles Garrett. And in that draft, I already talked about the rest of it. But so, no, the ideal of having all these first-round picks and getting excited about it, I am out on that idea for the rest of my life. I know it is the most overrated concept of all time. The fact that you got to hit on one of these first-round picks because you got so many. Nah, dog. You can miss on all of them. Well, it's like going to Vegas, right? I got so much, like, you know, when you come up with the foolproof Vegas plan, ain't no way Vegas could take my money. I got it planned out. I have it planned. And then what happens? Vegas takes your money. Nah, dog. Just go there and play the games, man. Just play the game like everybody else. Don't try to get cute with it.
It is kind of yeah. You know, there's always the guy who goes to the table and always loses his money. You know, that's just the NFL. We call them the Browns.
Yeah, and the problem is, right, because it could work, but the people who are thinking of getting cute with all of these draft picks are not the people who are good at making these draft picks, right? Like the people who are good at making the draft picks, they don't think I need 45 first-round picks. They go, I'll be good with one first-round pick. Bill Belichick, I think he legitimately
Belichick's the other one that proves your point,
seventh-round picks over first-round picks, right? Yeah. Like, you know, the people who come up with these ideas, we go get 14 first-round picks in like 3 years. Those are people who can't pick, so it don't matter if you got them picks because you're just gonna pick bums.
While we're on this topic, what do you think about the flip side of this, which is what the Rams are doing, which is basically saying, what are draft picks? We don't care. We'll literally trade any of them away for you know, proven guys and maybe guys that are kind of passive. I mean, this year they used someone. Guys like Von Miller.
They can do that because of location, right? People actually want to go live in LA and play in LA, so their free agency odds are a lot better, and they'll be willing to take less money, even though it makes no sense to take less money to live in LA because it's so expensive. But yeah, they'll be willing to do that. But also, you know, look, if you have identified that you suck at drafting in the first round, but you're good at drafting the other rounds, then why take all the get rid of the first round? Because it don't matter if you got a first round pick. If you take Edmonds, like, you know what I mean? Like, the first round pick only matters so much if you ain't gonna be good at making these first round picks. So yeah, man, if you feel like you ain't good at it, don't do it. But I'm starting to be in the Bill Belichick camp where sometimes the first round could be insanely overrated. It can.
It's funny that you guys mentioned that because one thing that Bengals fans, it was a small collective of them, but the year that we drafted Burrow, a lot of them were like, oh, let's trade down. And now they say, oh, we could have traded down and got Herbert. So we could have got Herbert and we could have gotten all of these other guys. And like, honestly, at the end of the day, you don't know that.
You just get the dude that you think is gonna be good. This is why Myles Garrett going at 1 and Patrick Mahomes being that same draft. That's not a failure for the Cleveland Browns that they drafted Myles Garrett at 1, because in the first round, you just want to draft somebody who's good, like who you can keep for a while. Like that's really like even in 2018. Yeah, you can argue the Browns did not get the best quarterback in that 2018 draft. I think that's a pretty clear argument based on the level of play this year you can make. But it's still not an ultimate failure, because an ultimate failure or a true failure would have been you drafted what's his name, Darnold. Rosen or Darnold. Who can't play, right? Baker can at least play, so you didn't ruin yourself there. You could have done better, but dog, stop. Just people love to get cute. Just I know from experience, terrible drafts. Stop getting cute. Just draft a good player, right? How many times have we seen this where the Jets didn't want to draft Warren Sapp, right? He was right there. Everybody was like, draft Sapp. I think Jets fans were literally cheering draft Sapp or chanting draft Sapp. And what do? Draft somebody else. Like it is something that seems so simple, but it can be so difficult. Just draft the good player. Just draft the good player. Just draft the good player.
Just draft a good player. Ray Rags 14 for $2 says that they almost traded the pick that became Chubb 2.
No, not just almost traded the pick to be Chubb. I know we know this story here on AFC North Talk, but they almost traded that pick to the Bengals for AJ McCarron, and somebody had to sabotage the trade so it didn't make the trade deadline in order for it not to happen, and they were fired for it. And that happened to be.
And as a Bengals fan, I can say that would have been a huge finesse. AJ McCarron for a second-round pick, that would have been a huge finesse.
For the second-round pick, it was like the 35th pick in the draft.
Yes,
like that was what
he was going to bless us again, just like he blessed us with the Carson Palmer trade. He was going to bless us again. He was getting ready to bless us.
Imagine the
Hugh, you my guy, but you going to bless us.
And Joe Mixon and Joe Burrow. Oh my goodness, and the Migos.
Yes, sir. But that is going to wrap up AFC North Talk. Thank you guys for sending in the super chat, supporting the channel. Don't forget we have the Patreon going on right now, so you can find that on Patreon, AFC North Talk, so you can get shout outs on the show, and we also will have some special content there for you guys. So don't forget that you can also add that one to your list, and then obviously you got to hit that subscribe button. But one thing that we haven't done in a long time that I saw someone comment about, they're like, where are you guys' channels at? Where can we find you? You guys are amazing. We want to look at your content individually. So Q, if you can, let the people know where they can find your stuff.
YouTube.com/Quincy Carrier, or you could just put in Quincy Carrier on your search bar on YouTube. You'll see me in here frantically making videos about what has been the most hectic week of content for the Cleveland Browns. I had a schedule of videos planned this week. I got like 3 videos I don't know what to do with no more. So thank you, Cleveland.
When's your Nick Mullins tape breakdown going up? You doing that?
Oh, I would not even dare to do a Nick Mullins tape breakdown, because why?
I need an in-depth look at Nick Mullins and his unique skill set in a Kevin Stefanski offense. I need.
You don't want a Nick Mullins breakdown? Because I sure as hell ain't doing the Case Keenum one.
Tony, where can people find your stuff?
Yeah, I mean, my channel is Steeler Country with Tony Turner. I haven't done a video in a very long time. Potentially now that I got the new gig, hopefully I'll be able to start that up here in the off season potentially. So check that out, Steeler Country with Tony Serino here on YouTube.
And you guys know that you can find Sonny at SZG Sports, and then you can find me at New Stripe City on YouTube. Definitely know that you can find all of us here on AFC North Talk. Please be sure to hit that notification bell so that you know when we are going live, because with the holiday season right around the corner, you never know when these episodes could go live. So do yourself a favor, hit that notification bell so you don't have to hide or find us on Twitter to try to figure out when we're going. If you hit that bell, you will automatically get that notification sent to you. You will know when we are going live. Thank you guys for watching AFC North Talk. We're out.
Have you ever
The pump fake. Are you listening?
That's intercepted by Wilson.
Yeah.
Ball's out. Oh, the ball is out. Oh, boy.